hope you said nice things.
Was it nice, Gurudev?
What?
I know you know Hindi, so was it nice?
It's okay. Haribo. Hare Krishna. Haribo. So, okay. So yesterday was Radhastami, and today is the day after Radhastami. So I thought it appropriate that to speak about Prabhupada today, since the only reason we know anything about Radharani is because of Srila Prabhupada. So I thought maybe we have a little kirtan first with a guitar. And please, nobody use cartels. So I give you the, yeah. Plug them in. That way more people will come towards the end. What time is the RT? What? 12:30. 12:30? Oh, we got a lot of time. 25 minutes.
You can go a little long. You can go further to one.
Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shimante Bhakti Vedanta Samadhi Namo Krishna Prastaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shimante Bhakti Vedanta Gauravani Jai Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Rama, Paramahansa Paravidikacharya Om Suchata Suchashi Shimad. His Divine Grace Sabaya Chandananda Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Thakur Jai. Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Govinda Sayam Kunda Radha Kunda Kiri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavanam Ki Jai, Machuranam Ki Jai, Jagat Goswami Ki Jai, Vrindavan Ki Jai. Shrimati Vasudeva ki jai. Samaveda Bhakta Friend ki jai. Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Namo Krishna Padaya Krishna Messiah. Pudle Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachani Devishesha Srinivadi Pashatateshta. Okay. Mala. Thank you. So, Omagana Tipananda Shah Gananjana Shalakya Chakshurun Meditam Yena Tasmai Shigurave Maha. So as I mentioned before, yesterday we were celebrating Radhasana, the glorious appearance of Srimati Radharani, the Adi Shakti, the Aladini Shakti of the Supreme Personality of God, Lord Shri Krishna. And so knowledge about Radharani is very elevated, esoteric. And this knowledge of Radharani, especially Krishna's intimate pastimes with Radharani, have been given to us, of course, by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and before that Madhavendra Puri, in our discipline succession, and of course, even before that, Srila Vyasadeva. Srila Vyasadeva and Shukadeva Goswami. So in many of the Vedic literatures, you have mention of Srimati Radharani, and Krishna, of course, too. But in the Bhagavatam, Shukadeva Goswami is very reluctant to directly mention Srimati Radharani because of his symptoms of ecstasy, being a devotee of Srimati Radharani. Of course, everyone in India knows about Lakshmi. Of course, you all like to worship Lakshmi because you want Lakshmi, right? You don't want Lakshmi. We want Lakshmi for Krishna. What's wrong with you? You become an atheist. So we want Lakshmi for Krishna, not for ourselves, because if you want for yourselves, what happens? Durga comes and she punishes you. So, anyway, but very few people know about Srimati Radharani, because Srimati Radharani is so exalted. Yet, we have Srila Prabhupada, His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, who has revealed Srimati Radharani to the whole world. Amazing what Srila Prabhupada has done. So I'd like to speak a little bit about the glorification of Prabhupada. And my glorification of Prabhupada will be a little bit different than most people do, because I'm going to speak about what we call the timeline of his life, and what he did during the different times of his life, and how that pertains to his exalted position. So Srila Prabhupada, as most of you know, he appeared in this world in 1896. It was a long time ago. And before Srila Prabhupada appeared, we have predictions of Srila Prabhupada's appearance being told by no other than Lord Nityananda. Wow. Lord Nityananda said, and this is from the biographies, the authorized biographies, that I will make everybody Krishna conscious, but those people in the foreign countries, that's us. Yes, Fiji is a foreign country from India. Then I'm going to send my Senapati. Senapati, for those of you who know, was the conquering general. And that, of course, was Prabhupada. And Prabhupada came here to Fiji many, many years ago. And simply by his word, we have Krishna consciousness here. He met one great devotee, Vasudeva. At that time, it was Deoji Pune. And his good wife was here today, Bhagavati. And he said to Vasudeva, as he was going through the transit lounge in the airport in India, he said, is there a Hare Krishna temple there? Is there a Radha Krishna temple here? And Vasudeva said, no. And Prabhupada said, make one. So Prabhupada was so powerful that by his very order, something could happen. That's real power, isn't it? None of us have that power. You know, I can say so many things, please do this, it won't get done. But even the disciples say, please do this. Why Guru Maharaj? I can't, Guru Maharaj. Not possible, Guru Maharaj. But Prabhupada said that the order of the spiritual master has within it the success potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So there's nothing. Prabhupada said to me, he said, the word impossible is a word in the Fool's Dictionary. Because we were in Los Angeles, and probably said to all of us, not just me personally, but Prabhupada wanted 17 books published in 2 months. And the devotee said, impossible. Prabhupada said, you're rascals. They say, oh, fool, you're fools. So Prabhupada gave that order here in Fiji, and because of that, we're sitting here today, and there's so many temples in Fiji. So many temples, Radha Krishna temples now in Fiji, isn't it? Yeah, we have Radha Krishna Nandi, informal temple, but in Lotoka, Prabhupada's original temple, here in Suva, in Mombasa, we have other devotees all over, everywhere from Reiki to Tavayuni, Savu. I mean, it's incredible. In such a small country, your country is small, whether you like it or not. It's small. But in such a small country, we have thousands and thousands of devotees. It's amazing. I mean, percentage-wise, I think we have more devotees per, what's called per capita, per percentage of population than anywhere in the world. Isn't that nice? How many was Fiji? How many people are in Fiji? 900,000? And we have thousands of devotees. I mean, there's no country like that. It would be like in America, okay, let's take the percentage. So let's say we have 5,000 devotees total, and people who follow Krishna consciousness. Half of them might get their karma. So anyway, so let's say we have 5,000 devotees, and let's say 1 million people. Let's be liberal. What does that mean as far as percentage? That's a 0.5%. 0.5% of the population, right? Am I right? Doing the mathematics? So let's say in America we have 400 million people. What's a 0.5% of 400 million? Can anyone figure that out real quick? I can figure it out. So it's 4 times 2,500 or something like that. Yeah. No, sorry, 25,000. 4 times. So it would mean we'd have, oh my God, we'd have over 100,000 devotees in America. Not true. So, I mean, it's amazing what Prabhupada did, what Vasudeva did here, isn't it? And so, amazing. So you see Prabhupada, he was really a conquering general. And there's devotees chanting now in China, thousands of devotees in China, and in Russia, and there's a war going on right now between Russia and Ukraine. I'm not taking sides. So there's tens of thousands of devotees in Russia, and there's maybe 5,000 to 10,000 devotees in Ukraine, a little country. Amazing. All over the world, just because this one person, the Senapati, was able to carry out Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission. So it's very special. Prabhupada would say, there was never a time when I forgot Krishna. Another thing Prabhupada said was that I was in the spiritual world, and Krishna said, you come to the material world. And Prabhupada said, how can I go to that place? You come to the material world, distribute books, publish books and print books like that. And Prabhupada came. So that's called an avatar. An avatar means someone who comes down. We are also down here. You may think we're up, we're down. And I'm not just speaking geographically, as far as the globe is concerned. This is the material world, we're down. This is really, it's a middle planet, but it's a middle planet in the prison house of the material world. That you may say, I'm in prison, but I'm not such a bad prison. I'm in a medium security prison. In prison they have a high security, maximum, they have a minimum, and they have medium. So we're in medium security prison. So Prabhupada came here. Anyway, so let's continue with the glorification. So Prabhupada was not only predicted by Lord Nityananda, Prabhupada was predicted by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, by other great acharyas, and here we are because of Prabhupada's mercy. So before Prabhupada appeared in 1896, even, right when Prabhupada appeared, the astrologer at Prabhupada's birth predicted everything that Prabhupada was going to do. What did he say? He said that the age of 70, he was going to come and open up 108 temples around the world. And then Prabhupada's father was a great pure devotee of Srimati Radharani, because we're talking about Srimati Radharani, because it was Srimati Radharani who actually caused Prabhupada to come to this world. Her mercy, her compassion. And Krishna, in the mood of Srimati Radharani, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who caused Prabhupada to come into this world. So Prabhupada's father, his name was Gaur Mohan Dey. And he was praying to Srimati Radharani, please send a great devotee to come down and preach Krishna consciousness. Please send one of your associates. So Srila Prabhupada was and is an associate of Srimati Radharani. And we don't know who Srila Prabhupada is in the spiritual world, of course. We don't guess. That's offensive. But at the same time, this is his exalted position. And he proved his exalted position, not only by what the astrologer said, not only by what he did later on in life and coming to the Western world, all over the world, preaching Krishna, including Fiji. He came another time to Fiji too. But by even at 6 years old, he was proving this in the year 1902 by performing the Rath Yatra ceremony. So you may think, Rath Yatra, kids do all sorts of yatras and they play with toys and everything like that. But the Rath Yatra ceremony has a very significant idea behind it. What is the significance of the Rath Yatra ceremony? It signifies the topmost mood of the gopis. What do I mean? I mean, you see the Rath Yatra goes out and it all goes, Jai Jagannath, Jai Jagannath, right? That's nice. I'm not saying you should say it. I mean, what else are you going to say? Jai Fiji, Jai Fiji. No, you say Jai Jagannath. The reason it's considered the topmost is because the Rath Yatra signifies the separation that the gopis felt from Krishna when Krishna left Vrindavan. And they met him in Kurukshetra and they were trying to drag him back to Vrindavan from Kurukshetra. So this is very exalted. It's not something ordinary. Rath Yatra is not just like taking the deities out and chanting to them. The Rath Yatra is a very elevated spiritual activity. In fact, anybody who pulls the cart is assisting the gopis in Vrindavan. How exalted can you get, Wow. So we, of course, have Rath Yatra. There's a cart in the parking lot. Not today. So Prabhupada did this at 6 years old. He begged his father for a cart. And his father didn't have much money. But his father found, he was crying, Prabhupada was crying, I want a cart, I want a cart. Can you imagine? Most kids cry because I want a mango or I want a mobile phone. Isn't it? Some of the children at 6 they have mobile phones here, right? So he's crying, I want a cart, I want a cart. And then the lady came over and said, what's your son crying about? And Prabhupada's father said, he's crying because he wants a Rath Yatra cart. And the lady said, I have one. Hasn't fixed it up. And so they fixed up the cart and everything like that. And Prabhupada not only had the Rath Yatra in the streets of Calcutta, but he had all of his friends' mothers prepare prasadam so that he could distribute to everyone. And all of his friends followed him. They were on the streets of Calcutta, 6-year-old kids. Not just a child's Rath Yatra, but 6-year-old children. They were actually going on this festival with Srila Prabhupada. And when Prabhupada came to the Western world, it was the first festival that Prabhupada basically started in a place called San Francisco in the United States. And they started it on the back of a big flatbed truck. And they would go through the streets chanting and dancing. And it was Prabhupada's chanting and dancing that actually attracted everybody to Krishna consciousness. So then, later on, of course, there's also another point. Prabhupada was worshipping Radha Govinda deities even from the very early age. And Prabhupada's earliest memory in this life was being put in a perambulator. You probably don't know what a perambulator is. It's a baby carriage. It's Old English for a baby carriage. Put in a baby carriage and taken to the Radha Govinda temple across the street and taking darshan of the deities. I'm not going to go through the whole biography because we'd be here forever with this whole biography. It's already 1234. So, I mean, that was his problem. Imagine his earliest memory in life was like that. And then he had these Radha Govinda deities, and in 1916, he actually attended university. It's called the Scottish Churches College. He got educated in English, very much educated in English-based education. And he became, during that time, a so-called follower of Mahatma Gandhi, and was very much interested in independence, Indian independence, which is good. I mean, we're interested in independence too, but not only independence from some other country. We're interested in independence from what? The material world. So Prabhupada, yes. So Prabhupada actually attended the university, but he refused to accept his diploma. Why did he refuse to accept his diploma? Because at that time he was acting as an advocate of the nonviolence Swaraj movement, Gandhi's movement. So very much enthusiastic for that. But then something very important happened in Srila Prabhupada's pastimes, his life. In 1922, on August 17th, Prabhupada went to see Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, his spiritual master. So Prabhupada, even though he's a pure devotee, some of the things we see in Prabhupada's life is why did he become a follower of simply a political movement? Well, the reason is that pure devotees come down in this world and they set an example for us. One example they set for us is the importance of accepting a spiritual master. Even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did that, right? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, before he took initiation, he was bothering the devotees. He was harassing the devotees. He was challenging the devotees. Because he was very intelligent. God is very intelligent. Most intelligent. And so, when he took initiation, he was in ecstasy. So Prabhupada is a very similar thing, because when pure devotees come to this world, they teach us how to become Krishna conscious. By their example. That's why they're called acharyas. Acharya means what? Good behavior. There's prachar and achar, right? Prachar means speaking. So just like I'm speaking about Krishna, about Prabhupada, and then after I leave the temple room, if I just say, where's the kava? Rupanuga, get me my kava for today. And you'll say, oh, he can't be an acharya, because his acharya is not so good. So, but many times we have people who speak nicely, they do so many nice things, speak about Krishna, Ram, and then afterwards, they drink the kava. No? Yes? Does that happen? So this is called hypocrisy. You understand? Because just like sometimes we had parents who said, don't do as I do, do as I say. You ever heard that from parents? Not very good. That's hypocritical. Prabhupada was not hypocritical. So Prabhupada, this is an interesting story. Prabhupada was reluctant to see his spiritual master because he had met so many other gurus who were hypocrites before. So he had a friend, this is Krishna's arrangement, a friend named Narendra Mullik, who dragged him, come see him. And Prabhupada said, no, I'm not going to go see him. Why? Because Prabhupada's father had entertained so many sadhus before, and each and every one of those sadhus, they were smoking marijuana. No kava though, they're more pious. That's a joke. And so they were smoking marijuana, so Prabhupada said, I'm not going to see another sadhu. But he was dragged, and then the first thing that happened when Prabhupada met his spiritual master in Calcutta. Someone's calling you on the phone. It's the problem with phones. So the first thing that happened is that Prabhupada asked him a question. Prabhupada, as I mentioned before, was acting as a follower of Gandhi. He said, who is going to listen to Krishna consciousness while India is still, what, a captive country? And his spiritual master defeated him. That philosophy said, everybody's captive. It's not that you get independence and you get an ecstasy. You become spiritually realized because the country's independent. Fiji used to be part of the Commonwealth. No, it's not anymore, right? Or something like that. You used to have that picture of the Queen on the Fiji bill. When I first came here, there was a Queen. Queen Elizabeth was there. I don't see her anymore. Feeling separation, But as life changed, you still get old, you still get sick. Is that life hasn't really changed that much. It's an illusion that we can actually become independent in this world. We're always controlled, either by our own senses or by whatever. We're always controlled in this world. So Prabhupada had this pointed out to him by his guru, and then at that point, he got the instruction from his guru in 1922. You are educated, you're an educated young man. You should preach Lord Chaitanya's message in the Western world. So from that point onward, I guess we're going to have to summarize this over. This could be a 3-hour class. And you don't want that. So from that point onward, Srila Prabhupada was meditating on his spiritual master's order. Even though he didn't take initiation until 11 years later, but he was meditating. So this is the real acceptance of Guru. Initiation is the formality, but the real point of becoming a disciple is to be disciplined, or to take the words of the Guru Mukha Padma Vakya, Jatete Koriya Akya, to take the words of the spiritual master of one's life and soul. So Prabhupada did that. He accepted that. And then his whole life was dedicated, to make a long story short, I can go through other things too. In 1933, that's 11 years later, he accepted initiation in a place called Allahabad from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and got instructions from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur that if you ever get any money, please use it to distribute books and print books. Don't fight over the temple properties and everything like that. Fight, distribute books, and engage in deity worship to actually attract people to Krishna consciousness. There's got your blessings, thank you. So, and then Prabhupada meditated on that, and he used that as his primary strategy when he later on came to America. But throughout Prabhupada's whole life, Prabhupada was married. He was struggling to his whole plan, his whole strategy was to distribute books, print books, go to the Western world, or distribute books in the Western world by making money. He's a businessman. He ran a pharmacy, basically. It's very actually, he had his own medicine. He actually invented his own medicine. And many of the devotees had his own toothpaste, everything. Probably very intelligent what he was doing. And for a while it was successful. But then after a while, things started to go wrong. The business was failing. He had so many competitors who cheated him. People didn't pay their bills. Just very short. And his wife was interfering with Prabhupada's preaching. So his wife would actually do things when Prabhupada came home with some guest. His wife would blow dust in the guests' faces with a feather duster. That's what they used before there were vacuum cleaners. That's an old vacuum cleaner. And she, even at one point, she took his Bhagavatams and sold them because she wanted her tea biscuits. But Prabhupada, he actually saw this was actually Krishna's plan. Because Krishna was planning to have Prabhupada take sannyas. So Prabhupada was very responsible in his household life. Very, very responsible. But his wife was not at all reciprocating and helping with Prabhupada's preaching. And Prabhupada did take care of his family and was with his family until he was quite old. So there was responsibility. He didn't give up responsibility. Finally, his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, left this world in 1936. And he also left Prabhupada with his final instruction about a month before he passed away, that to preach in the Western world, preach in English. So he got this instruction, always meditating on this instruction, and Prabhupada tried to fulfill that in India. He was printed Bhagavad Gita, not Bhagavad Gita, sorry, Back to Godhead, and he would distribute Back to Godhead everywhere. And he became known, even amongst his godbrothers, as a great scholar, and he was given the name by his godbrothers as Bhakti Vedanta. Now, Bhakti Vedanta means one who has devotion and knows the conclusion of Vedic literatures. And he was advising Mahatma Gandhi. He said to Mahatma Gandhi in 1947 that now you've achieved what you wanted in your Swaraj, you should retire from politics. You should take up the teaching of Bhagavad Gita. So even he was writing a letter. This was about a month before Gandhi was shot. And he said, if you don't do this, Prabhupada predicted it, you're going to meet with what Prabhupada called an inglorious death. So Prabhupada was predicting what was going to happen. Unless you give up politics, because politics means violence, and like you experience in Fiji sometimes. Coup. Different things like that. So probably, politics is dangerous. Like I see in America, all the politicians, they have to have so many bodyguards to protect them. Here too in Fiji. It's a dangerous occupation. Being a sadhu is not a dangerous occupation. I'm not worried. Nobody's gonna steal me for my money or anything, rob me for my money, All right, you can look at my B bag, how much is there, a few rupees. Just let me keep my mobile phone. So Prabhupada advised him, and that's exactly what happened, as we know. And then Prabhupada tried preaching in other areas in India, but Krishna arranged that practically everything ended up in what externally appeared to be a failure. It wasn't a failure because Krishna was directing him. Sometimes when we try to do what Krishna doesn't want, Krishna makes it a failure, right? We try our best, oh my God, it's not working. And Prabhupada saw Krishna behind that. Then he became determined to go to America to preach Krishna consciousness, because in India, basically, people were not so much interested in Krishna consciousness. They were interested in the Western point of view. You understand? So Prabhupada had a strategy. His strategy was to preach then in the Western world, which is what Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur wanted, and then bring back people from the Western world to show people that Krishna consciousness is superior to Western material advancement. So Prabhupada was also intelligent in his strategy. He saw that making money wasn't working, preaching in his home wasn't working, opening up preaching centers in India. There was a Jhansi preaching center that was taken over because of politics from the governor. So he thought, all right, my spiritual master's order. So, this is the guiding force in Srila Prabhupada's life. Let me go to America. And so, after he took sannyas, insisting that he would take sannyas, and compiled 3 volumes of the Srimad Bhagavatam without any money, basically Prabhupada had to fast for almost a year. Didn't give up eating completely, but rely on others' mercy just to be able to eat. Because every penny that Prabhupada got from distributing his Bhakti Godhead, every penny he got from distributing his books, he used to print more books. And he would go to the printer, and he would basically arrange to carry the paper to the printer. Can you imagine that? And the printer would say, have you eaten yet? And Prabhupada said, no, that's all right. And the printer would have to arrange for Prabhupada's meal. So determined, living very, very austerely. And then so Prabhupada, once he printed these 3 volumes of the Srimad Bhagavatam, then he was ready to go to America. Because Prabhupada understood, without books, nobody would accept him. You have to have something that substantiates, that proves your position, your philosophy. So Prabhupada, he went to Sumati Moraji, the head of the Scindia steamship company, and he begged her for a passage. But remember, at this time he was over 65, he was like 68, 69. And she said, Swamiji, he Prabhupada was so determined, he couldn't see her in the beginning. He had to just sit on the steps all day long until she agreed to see him. And immediately she said, Swamiji, you're going to die over there. You're too old. Just go to Vrindavan. And Prabhupada left Vrindavan. He was living in Vrindavan, publishing his books. Most exalted place. He was completely in ecstasy. He said, no, I'll be all right. And he insisted. Finally she said, okay, you can go on a boat. No airplane. I mean, there were airplanes at that time. But you can go on a steamship, which is basically a freighter. Not one of these modern cruise ships you see that come to Fiji sometimes with swimming pools and everything like that. You go, and then Prabhupada convinced the Indian government to give him a pass to leave India, to get a passport, because you have to have a tax clearance to leave India, which is called a P form. And then finally, Prabhupada got on this boat in Calcutta, and nobody was there to see him off, just some friend was able to see him off. And with his books, which were later delivered to the boat in Mumbai, he went to America, and he had suffered 2 heart attacks on the way over to America. But Prabhupada was assured by Krishna, who appeared to him in a dream, as all his various incarnations rowing the boat. Isn't it amazing? Assured him of success. Gets to America. Basically, he has $5 worth of rupees in his pocket, which he couldn't change because there was no exchange of rupees in America. So he gets there, doesn't really know which way to turn. He doesn't have warm clothes. America gets very cold, especially New York. First time Prabhupada saw snow, he thought that someone had taken white paint and painted everything white. He didn't know what snow was. So anyway, so Prabhupada, he goes to this place called Butler, Pennsylvania, preaches, eventually comes to New York, and simply has no money, gets robbed at one time, and he sits down and he's living with hippies, people taking drugs. One person almost tried to hurt Prabhupada because he was high on this thing called LSD. And Prabhupada simply sat down in Tompkins Square Park and chanted the Hare Krishna mantra, depending on Krishna. And the devotees came. They were dancing and chanting. And from that point forward, the movement exploded, all based on the holy name, all based on Srila Prabhupada's preaching. And now, of course, oh my God, we have to end. I could go on forever. I mean, I had so many details I wanted to add. But now we have a worldwide movement here in Fiji with maybe 5,000 devotees, some initiated, some not initiated, because of Srila Prabhupada's great devotion. And here we understand somewhat about Srimati Radharani. Here we know about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we should express our gratefulness to His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, for coming to this material world, for taking the austerity, for following the order of His spiritual master, and saving us. And He really does save us. We realize that then with our connection to Prabhupada, how Prabhupada has saved us, we will become Krishna conscious. I'll tell you an interesting story of one of my godbrothers. And this is very interesting in proving just the gratefulness to Prabhupada and following Prabhupada can save anyone, even from a very low position. Here's the story. Okay. Once upon a time, as stories go, there was, I know it's almost time, and you showed me your watch. So anyway, so once upon a time, and I'll end with the story. Once upon a time, there were devotees in France going on Sankirtan, distributed books. So they came, this is a very funny story, but good story. They came to, in Paris, they were chanting, dancing, but there was this person in Paris who was a drunkard, and he never took a bath or anything like that. He was just lying there in the street, and he smelled bad. They called him, every time they go by, they call him Pigpen. You know, Pigpen? It means where they keep pigs. So very low person. Some of you may have heard this story before. So, devotees, so one day Prabhupada comes, and he's walking with the devotees on a morning walk, and Pigpen, sorry for that, he became a great devotee, but at that time, that's what they called him. He jumps out of the bushes and tries to touch Prabhupada's feet. And the devotees say, what are you doing? Get out of here. So, all right, and the devotees go back to the temple. And when they come back to the temple, there's this Pigpen at the temple, just from seeing Prabhupada and trying to touch Prabhupada's lotus feet. Amazing, isn't it? All right, more of the story. So they go back to the temple, and they want to get rid of him. And because Prabhupada's there, Prabhupada's very merciful. You can't get rid of him. You have to let him stay. So they engage this guy in cleaning the temple, simple activities. Finally, I guess they gave him a bath or something like that. And they keep feeding him prasadam. He can hardly speak, just mumbling some words because he's taken so much intoxication. This guy can hardly speak. Okay. So, after a while, the devotees decided to go on traveling Sankirtan, means distributing books, taking a vehicle, distributing books in different places in France. So they go to the van, and inside the van there's pig pens saying, I want to distribute books. And they said, no, go back to the temple. Okay. He said, no, I'm sitting here, I'm going to distribute books. And so they take him out, thinking, what is he going to do? And they arrive at their Sankirtan spot. Sankirtan means a place where you distribute books. Their Sankirtan means the distribution of books, the chanting the holy names congregationally. So they arrive there, and he says, I want to distribute books. And they were eating prasadam. It's a time for them to eat prasadam. But he goes out with a whole bag of books and comes back. And the bag of books is empty. And he has all the money from distributing and selling the books. And the Lord said, what did you do? What did you tell people? And he said, I simply told people, Prabhupada saved me. That's all he told me. He didn't know the philosophy. He didn't know chanting Hare Krishna is nice. Well, he knew that at least. But he said, Prabhupada saved me. He walked up to people, Prabhupada saved me. Try this. Prabhupada saved me. Prabhupada saved me. So they said, oh my God. So he continued like that. He became one of the biggest book distributors in the world for a long time. And then later on, this is a story told by Ishwardunya Maharaj. Later on, he visited Ishwardunya Maharaj, visited the Los Angeles temple or some temple, and he found that this devotee, Pigman, who had become initiated by Prabhupada, name became Rasada. And he was giving Bhagavatam class, and he was very educated like that. And he was shocked. So here was someone giving Bhagavatam class, very educated, became one of the main book distributors of the movement. Of course, when I'm using the past tense, he passed away about 2 years ago, 2-3 years ago. Just from that. From saying and understanding that Prabhupada saved me, became the most educated person, became a great preacher just from doing that. Wow! So that's why I'm emphasizing that if we're grateful to Prabhupada for everything Prabhupada has given us, the austerities he performed, then we will achieve perfection. We understand our connection with Prabhupada. We don't think we're more intelligent than Prabhupada. We understand that Prabhupada has presented the highest truths of Krishna consciousness. Then your spiritual perfection is assured. How about that? So that's the class, and we have a half minute left. So, she said we can go to 1. So we did it. So thank you very much. Is the auntie over already? Oh my God. Sorry about that. I apologize. So what happens now? Prasadam? Well, then at 1 o'clock you put a limit on me. So anyway, that's the conclusion. That's the conclusion. Here is the greatest saint in the modern world. Of course, we don't want to talk about Vyasadeva. In the modern world, he's the greatest saint. Amazing. Now, of course, Prabhupada did not want credit for these things. He gave credit to his spiritual master, being humble. He never wanted, let's say, so much for anything for himself other than the facility to preach Krishna consciousness. Never became proud. Like you see sometimes religious leaders, they become very proud and they take a lot of money. Prabhupada lived very simply. Very, very simply. And accepted just the minimum for himself and the maximum for Krishna. And just one other point about Prabhupada. He would wake up at 1 o'clock every morning and write his books. That way he published something like 80 big books in the span of 11 years. Prabhupada came to America, amazing. Came to America in 1965 and left this world in 1977. 80 big books, countless small books, countless lectures, countless letters, countless devotees being made, initiated, 5,000 devotees initiated. 11 years. Prabhupada accomplished all that. So, what's that?
Announcement.
Oh, announcement. Tell him to stop. Tell me it's gone on too long. So, okay, so anything, I think that's it, you know, because we do have programs today and things to do, right?
Thank you very
Okay, thank you very much. All glories to His Divine Grace. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
much. Bir Krishna Goswami.